Well, it's good to have TJ. How you doing today, TJ?
Hey, I'm doing well, Keith. Thanks for having me.
It's
Excited
a
for the
pleasure. I'm
conversation.
looking forward to see where this all takes us from a
Likewise.
digital expert.
Let's get into it. It's going to be good.
So we're going to start out with an easy question first. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, reflecting back, I had an amazing mentor when I was in high school. He was our high school football coach, defensive coordinator. He was also just an elementary school teacher in town, local leader. He was involved in literally every aspect of community life. And he was someone that everybody knew and looked up to. And he always preached this mantra of love and care for each other. And within our football team, that was just a mantra. Like, maybe you didn't get along with everybody outside of practice or off the field, but when you were together, when you were working and it was business time, we all love and care for each other. And he came down with cancer in my sophomore season. And I remember so vividly, we had this moment where he called in for our pregame ritual. We would always do this visualization exercise before every game where we'd lock arms with each other, sitting in the locker room. And on this particular night, he was heading towards the end, and he called in. We could feel, like, hear how weak he was, but how strong he was trying to be for us in that moment. And he led us through this exercise like he'd done so many times in person before. And it always ends with that mantra of love and care for each other. And I just remember the chills and just that commitment that I felt going onto the football field after, what kind of was his dying breath. He passed away a few days later, leading us through that and just reminding us to always love and care for each other. So that's something that I bring into all aspects of my life. It's service above self. It's the intentionality about just being present and nurturing the relationships around you, trying to make little acts of kindness in everything that you do in life, make people smile. When you're doing that and putting that energy into the world, good things just seem to happen. So it was
Right.
good advice then. It's great advice now.
You never know how those people in our lives, how they impact us. And it's like, you never know when you cross somebody's path, what one moment, what one season in your life, how that can really spread to something that's life changing.
Absolutely.
I'm curious. That was a great story. Are there any other people who are very crucial in your life? And if so, you want to share a little bit about them?
Yeah, my wife and I have been on this amazing journey together. We met back in high school sweethearts. We went through the ups and downs of young love back then, and a few breakups in high school. Ended up going off to different colleges and living our own independent lives, but we've learned so much together. And it's kind of cliche, some people don't agree with it, but she truly is my best friend. I love spending time with her. She's my first confidant or person I go to for advice when things aren't going well. And we've really built a relationship on intentionally working on our marriage and just working on all of the things that go into being happy and healthy and just nurturing in each other's lives. So biggest thing there is communication. And that's something that you got to work on every day. But for us, it's definitely an intentional practice where, we, instead of expressing our needs all the time, we're more focused on actively listening and just figuring out how to better communicate with one another. So shout out to Allie. She's in the room next door. We both work from home. We've navigated COVID and remote working together. We've traveled the world together, and she's just the person that I think of when it comes to being the most impactful, influential in my life.
That's cool. You can work from home and still like each other. That's amazing.
The early days were tough, Keith. I'm not going to lie. Like when COVID lockdown first hit, we had to figure out, all right, this isn't working. We got to create some ground rules. So, we've got different policies around closed doors and when to come in and how you do that. But, it's something you got to kind of navigate together and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Exactly. I love asking people my question because, everybody's story has highs and lows, but I think we learn a lot sometimes from our lows. So what was your biggest failure and what did you learn from that experience?
Man, all right. So this question usually elicits different answers from me. But when when I think about that question, it's the biggest takeaway is what did you learn, or what's a moment where something bad happened, a failure happened that led to really positive change. And for me, it was a pretty dark moment in my life. Looking back, I was 22, 23 years old, fresh out of college, had just moved down to the Bay Area. I was looking for my first corporate job out of college, and as an interim, I got a job working at a kind of brew pub pizza shop, and it was really cool. Great people that worked there, but during that period, I was getting into some bad habits around drinking and overindulging a lot more, which is something you know, I kind of cultivated through college, partying a lot and fresh out, started to have some money in my pocket. And I was just drinking a lot more than I should have. And on one particular night, we had a company party, closed off the pizza shop for the night, just brought in a bunch of people from the community. All of our employees was there, and, free beer all night long. So I took advantage of that, and I woke up the next morning. Didn't know how I got home. My wife sitting there at the end of the bed crying, girlfriend at the time. And I mean, I just knew something terrible had happened. Turns out I passed out, stumbling out of the bar, got picked up by the cops, who
Oh no.
luckily didn't take me to the drunk tank, but took me home to my loving wife. But for me, that was a gut check. It was a reality check. Like, you're heading down a really dark path here, TJ. And if you don't check yourself, if you don't figure out a way to right this ship, you're going to lose the thing that's most important to you. This woman that you love and care for. And so that moment, it really set in motion a intentional path of building a better relationship with alcohol. And for me, that's been a major game changer, and something I look back on as a big failure, but a failure that needed to happen at that point to set the course on the right track.
Those failures in our life, like you say, can be a pivotal moment where we grow from it in a real positive way. And for you, it sounds like it did kind of wake you up and go, okay, there's something here, that a path that's not the path I want to be on. So how do I change that path and look for something more positive in my life? That's good.
Yep. Yeah, it really was good.
So here's an easier question for you.
We're rocking and rolling. I
That's
like it.
right.
They've all been easy so far.
There you
We're
go.
good. No curveballs.
But tell me your why. I love that. I went to a conference where Simon Sinek talked about that, and he brought up that concept of what's your why? What's that thing
Yeah.
that gets you up in the morning? What's that for you?
So right now, my why is the pursuit of freedom. Freedom, not just for myself, but for the dozens of business owners, our partners, who we have the privilege to serve. Our whole purpose with our agency, Height Digital, is empowering community leaders, empowering local leaders to have an impact, not just hitting their revenue goals, but having an impact within the community. Because we know when small businesses succeed, when they do well, that creates stability for the families of their teams. It creates stability for that community itself. They're providing a great service. They're doing good. They're able to grow. They're able to give back. Sponsor a little league team, donate to charities, get more involved in different nonprofits. So when we work with a business, we like to understand what it is that really drives them. What's their why at the end of the day? Yeah, they're always going to have financial goals. We want to double our revenue this year, but we always like to say, "Oh, that's great. What's significant about that number? What's that going to empower you to do in your company, for your team, for your community?" And we always find that when we ask those questions, we get down to the root of what really motivates people. And we use that. That's what we pin up on the board as our main KPI, what we're shooting for. If we can succeed in what we're setting out to do, the marketing that we're going to be providing for this business, look at what they're going to be able to do on the back end of that. And that's the thing that we ultimately get to celebrate with them, and have that be our win that we share together. So for me, it's building freedom for myself, where I can serve people wherever I am, whenever I want to be serving, but also having that impact that trickles down to the communities that we serve.
One of my goals for this podcast is to have people on like yourself who help people who have a story to get that story out, or a product to get that out, but also for people who are listening in the audience to know that they do have something to offer. And hopefully sometime they'll hear somebody on a podcast that will inspire them to go for that dream. As
Yeah.
you think about marketing, and I think the key thing for marketing, I just had a guy on my podcast recently who said SEO is just kind of a scam, in that if you don't know what your customers want, you can have the best keywords in your searches for your product, but if you're not offering what the customer wants, you're not really going to get
Doesn't
customers.
matter. Yep. Yep. I'd agree with him there. I would agree with him there. Yep.
So as you work with people, you talk about helping them discover their why. What's the biggest, I guess I'd say the biggest hindrance or thing that people struggle with to figure out what their why is?
That's a great question. So just to clarify specifically, like when we're working with business owners who may not have that clarity, how do we help them figure
Right,
that
because
out?
if you're
Or
a marketing person, you want to know what you're marketing. If they're not sure, how do you help them
yeah,
be sure what they're trying to market?
yeah, it's a great question. So for us, it all boils down to having real conversations. When we partner with someone, it has to be a good fit on both sides. We don't just work with just anybody. It has to be significant in the sense that there is some purpose behind it. We like to work with purpose driven entrepreneurs, purpose driven business owners. And so our whole discovery process, I kind of alluded to it a little bit already, is getting into that. And sometimes people don't necessarily have it written down, like, in their whatever format they use for setting goals within their company or in their personal lives. But if we can ask the right questions, it kind of just keep peeling back the layers of the onion, going a little bit deeper. What would be significant about that? What's that going to enable you to do? How would that impact your team? Just at the right time, asking those questions to get them to that point where they have that aha moment. It's like, well, yeah, actually, the reason I want to grow this business is because I just had my first son last year, and I'm trying to build a business that'll be a legacy that I can pass on to him and or sell one day to be able to pay for his college education or whatever the case may be. But sometimes we have had those conversations where it's like, wow, I never thought about it that way. I've never had someone ask this level of question in regards to marketing our business. Usually it's like, all right, where do you want to go revenue wise? What's your click through rate? What's your conversion rate? All these, main KPIs that we use, but being able to really understand what drives somebody and it gets them fired up at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, any time of day. That's what we try to dig into. So it's just asking the right questions, being real, being a real human being on the other side of the phone or Zoom or across the desk, and just trying to relate to them and understand what makes them tick.
So how did you learn marketing? Was that something you took in school, or was it kind of you learned on the job? Because I took a marketing class, loved it, but I didn't
Yeah,
feel like I left out of school ready to be a marketing person.
it's a great question too. So I went to business school. I got an entrepreneurship degree. My favorite classes were actually the marketing classes, but and this may be different depending on what school, what program you're in, but at the time, the tactical, like, here are the tools you're going to use, or here's the specific social media strategy, or here's what's working now. That wasn't really the curriculum. By the time you're in class, it's usually probably outdated with how fast things are going now. But the core foundation of good marketing is storytelling. It's consumer behavior philosophies and psychology. And so those are the things that I really enjoyed learning about. And when you can understand how to be a good storyteller, how to take an idea and turn it into a compelling message through story, and understand the consumer behavior psychology that gets people to take action. That's what allows you to be an effective marketer. So I loved that in school, but I would say it really wasn't until I got into the corporate world where I got to learn what the ins and outs of digital marketing were. I worked for a small shopping center. Well, not small, actually. 100 plus tenants. That's not that small. In Alameda, California. And most of these were small mom and pop businesses, local businesses. And they didn't have a clue about how to drive foot traffic, how to work on their SEO, how to run social media campaigns. So when I stepped into this role, I was at first the marketing intern, became the marketing manager. I was just their first contact. Came to me with all their questions about digital marketing. How do we do social media? What's SEO? And I had to learn a lot of this stuff, you know, from the school of hard knocks, like just doing it in real time, figuring out how to effectively build these campaigns, how to provide good consult to these business owners, and ultimately help them succeed. So over the years doing that, and then stepping into the agency world and having some great mentors, great coaches that were able to teach me things that I hadn't quite tapped into yet. That's been the biggest thing, is just learning from experience, figuring out what's working now, because it's rapidly changing all the time, and that's going to continue to be the case, especially with AI. So you got to stay on top of what's new, what's happening, test things out, try new things. But at the end of the day, the foundations, the principles always boil down to what humans resonate with, and that's good storytelling, and that's the philosophical psychology behind what makes us tick, what makes us think.
You just touched on something I want to get deeper into, the whole AI aspect of digital marketing, because it seems to me like you can get caught up in, again, clicks. We love clicks. We love likes. We love traffic, but traffic doesn't necessarily translate into customers. So how do you get people to say, okay, because I get, because I have a podcast, I get all the time, every single day, somebody from Bangladesh saying, hey, I can make your podcast go viral. Just give me $500 a month and I can get you 500 or 10,000 downloads. And I'm going, yeah, but are those real customers, or it's just like you messing with some algorithm? So if you're out there and you're as a digital marketing space, how do you know what's a legit marketing strategy or what's a con? I guess I would just use that word.
What's a con? Yeah, no, it's so true. We all get hit up in the DMs. Our inboxes are full of spam of people promising the moon, and yeah, like I could turn on a floodgate of traffic for any business, for any podcast, for any campaign, and get you a bunch of traffic for cheap on Facebook or Instagram. But it's gonna be people in Africa or Southeast Asia, or places where you're never going to convert that customer. That's not your ideal customer. So traffic is important, but at the end of the day, it's getting the right traffic and getting those people that are the right people to resonate with your message and ultimately convert on your offer. So when we look at developing a campaign, the first thing that we need to understand is what is the product? What is the benefit of that product? What solution is it providing? What problem is it solving? And once we have a clear understanding of, all right, this is what this product is offering, and here's all the solutions it's going to provide. Now let's back into who's the ideal customer for that. And oftentimes, that's already known. There's already some data to be able to make an informed decision around what our demographics are, what our psychographics are, interests, behaviors, all these different things. But we want to get super deep. And once we have all of that, that's what enables you to write effective messaging, have good copy, create those stories, figure out what channels make sense. If you're targeting an older demographic, probably going to be looking at channels like Facebook, Instagram, but not so much TikTok. If you're on a younger demographic, maybe then you're tapping into channels where the youth are hanging out, like TikTok. But at the end of the day, every product's going to have a different medium. So social media might not be the best place for you to be. If you have a service based business, and that's a service that people are typically 90% of the time going on to Google to find the best answer for a question, the best company to work with, well, that's where an SEO strategy, paying for search advertising, and effectively building out good content to answer the questions that people are answering on, or people are asking on your website, that's where we're going to want to focus in those cases. So it's 360 degrees. We got to see what the whole picture is and develop a strategy, not in a silo, not based on a shiny object, a new tool or strategy that people are really hyped on, but figuring out what's going to be the most impactful in this moment, both in the short term and also in the long term, depending on what your goals are.
You gave me a lot there, because I think you also got me thinking you need to ask the right kind of questions for those people trying to sell you products. So it always cracks me up when they say, I can get you 100,000 downloads for $500. I'm like, have you even heard the podcast?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea who my audience is? But
Yeah.
I got a vast array of people here in India who want to listen to
Yeah.
your podcast. Like, yeah, are they really
No,
though?
that's not the niche. That's not what we're going after.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's all automated at the end of the day, or most of it is. These are just mass messages that get sent out, and once somebody replies, you get a nibble, then they're maybe doing a little bit of research, trying to curate their pitch to your actual situation. But it's a numbers game for a lot of companies out there.
Can you get the wrong service and actually do harm to your product? Because I think I've seen sometimes where if you have a podcast and you have this not organic growth, you get pinged
Mm.
by certain companies. Is that something you've noticed too by people supposedly trying to
Yeah.
help you and actually doing do more harm?
Well, definitely. I'm not super familiar with the podcast landscape and the algorithms and how they reward or punish you for more black tricks. But certainly in the marketing world, there's a lot of bad actors out there. Let's be real. Marketing agencies, especially these days, have gotten a bad name, and for good reason in some cases. There are agencies that are a little predatory in their tactics, and especially when it comes to your website, your domain, and bad SEO tactics. You can really do a lot of harm if the company, the partner that you're working with, is doing things that are a little more black hat, not something that Google's rewarding, but is actually penalizing. You can hurt your domain authority. You can get blacklisted by search engines, and at the end of the day do a ton of harm if you've had a reputable company that's built up a strong online reputation over the years. That could get torn down rapidly if things aren't done the right way. So every situation is going to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you want to do your due diligence on any partner that you're going to be working with, making sure that you understand what they're doing, what's in the contract. Like, do you own your data? Do you own your website? Do you own your marketing campaigns? Or if things don't work out and you decide to cancel, is all that just going to get ripped out from under you? And that's a very common thing these days, especially with larger agencies. Hey, we'll build you a website for super cheap, but when you cancel, that website's coming with us. So a lot of people, that's in the fine print. That's never a conversation that's had with the salesperson, and they get blindsided when 6 months later they're not getting any result. They're spending all this money, and now they want to make a change. They reach out to somebody like us, and we're like, hey, this is going to hurt, but look at your contract right here. Like, that website, that's gone. We're going to have to start from scratch.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's a huge investment, not just financially in the time, but again, if you've built up a strong domain authority, you are ranking, you're getting good traffic coming in organically, and you have to start from zero. That could take some time to rebuild. So it sucks, but it's a reality. You gotta
Wow.
gotta know who you're getting into bed with at the end of the day.
So buyer beware, what you're telling me.
Buyer beware. I mean, not to be, doom and gloom. Just do your due diligence. Ask
Right.
ask for references, look into the company, read the fine print, ask good questions, and you'll be okay.
So which marketing campaign are you most proud of?
Ooh, that's a good question. Like a specific,
Just one that
it's
you
like an
go back and go,
individual
wow, this is just,
campaign.
yeah, it's like, this was awesome. This is like brilliance on display.
Yeah. Well, let's see. This is actually going way back. I helped actually, he was a client as well, but he has an amazing story. He immigrated from El Salvador when he was like 10 years old, didn't speak any English. This basically rags to riches American dream story where he is now just a super successful entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, gives back to his community in such meaningful ways. And he created a documentary about his life. And I got to be involved with not only the production and some of the storytelling elements of putting the documentary together, but we did a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter for the documentary to be able to hit the film festival circuit and get it seen by the masses. And it was super successful. It happened right in the midst of COVID, and our goal was to raise $50,000 for the final production and doing the film festival run that we wanted to. And things were really tough. Like middle of the way through the campaign, everything's going well. We've raised over half the funds that we wanted to, and then the world shuts down. Right? Not not a great time to be asking people for donations for a documentary, but we got creative. We found some angles to be able to leverage some big commitments from people and do some matching campaigns and get across the finish line at the end of the day, which led to this film winning a bunch of awards on the festival circuit. I got to travel around with the production team and Laz, the guy who his story is being told in it, and it was just a super fun experience. So not the typical thing that we do, but looking back, it was just a great time. I learned a lot about storytelling and communication, and did a lot of digital ads for that campaign that worked really well. So it was a cool experience. A little bit
That's
different than what we
awesome.
normally do. Yeah.
So, what are you most excited about in this season of your life?
Oh man. Professionally, it's the people I get to work with. We work with some amazing partners, both within my team. Just got an amazing group of people around me, but the clients that we get to work with, partially because I have learned along the way what what kind of people I want to work with and I want to serve, and when I can figure out and align that when I'm speaking with clients, and only choose to work with the ones that I know we're going to be able to help, yes, but also that are aligned in our values and our drive. It's just fun. It's fun to be able to get on a call, even when things aren't going well. We're going to have tough conversations sometimes and say, hey, we had this idea for what was going to work in this campaign. It's not working. Here's what we're going to do differently, and develop a plan around that. And when you have good communication, when you've built a strong relationship from the beginning, it's a lot more just fun and exciting to get up and, through the good and the bad times, be able to work through and solve challenging problems with people that you genuinely want to help. So that's what drives me right now in the business. Personally, it's always just adventure is what drives me. I'm always in the pursuit of trying something new. We like to travel, so we've always got some fun trips coming up in the pipeline and things to look forward to there. So getting to travel with my parents outside of the country for the first time this year, which is really exciting. They're getting older, so trying to take advantage of those moments while I can. We're going on a cruise on the Rhine River, starting in oh crap, I don't remember where we're starting, but ending in Amsterdam for like 3 weeks. So it's going to be a really cool experience. I've never traveled in Europe before, and to get to do that with my parents and my wife Allie and my little sister and my aunts, it's just going to be a really special time. So excited for that, and definitely looking forward to some other trips we have planned as well.
That's so cool. I'll have to ask my guest this question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Ah, legacy question. It really boils down to, I want to be remembered for making an impact in my local community. I alluded to one earlier, David Kitchell, but I had really great community leaders in my small town where I grew up, called Ashland, Oregon, down in Southern Oregon. People that were just involved in so many different things, from youth sports to local nonprofits to supporting local theater and the college and just everything. And being able to see how they built community and were able to scale businesses, but doing it in a way that their main goal was to just be able to give back and help support and raise people up. That's what excited me. That's part of what drove me to start my business. So when I think about legacy, it's wanting to be thought of as somebody who made an impact in his local community, for being someone who selflessly helped others and brought people up along the way, brought people together, and really built a thriving community around loving and caring for the people around you. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm involved in a lot of different things here locally in Bend, serve on a few nonprofits, involved with some different groups here, and through the business, just try to give back where we can. There's a lot of great nonprofit organizations here in Bend, and we try to find opportunities to be able to support them. So
Yeah, that's so important to be able to give back to your community because you get to leave an impact for people like your football coach. You left one on you. Imagine what you can do passing that along to somebody else as well.
Absolutely.
Anything I haven't asked you that we should cover before we close out?
No, I mean just to reiterate, kind of touched on it, but kindness is a superpower. You never know what a small act of kindness may lead to. So, I just I would say to people listening, remember to just be a little bit kinder than is necessary today and in every day of your life. And as we go into what is certain to be a very polarizing year ahead of us with everything that's going to be happening politically, I think that's just even more important now to just make sure that you're doing the little things. You're being nice to people. You're being kind, even to people that you may not necessarily agree with on everything. That's what we need more of in this world is just being able to see what those differences are, set them aside, and there's so much more common ground at the end of the day than the things that polarize us. We just need to get past the polarizing stuff to be able to see that and build a bridge to where we want to go. So just be
Yeah,
nice, be kind. That's all
I
I
agree.
got.
I agree with that. Where can people learn more about you and about your company?
Yeah, so you can find pretty much everything that I'm doing. I have a personal website, Linktree, basically. It's tjmurphy.me. That'll lead you to Height Digital. It'll lead you to my podcast, Adventurous Entrepreneurs, where I have the privilege of interviewing some amazing people doing just incredible things out there in the world and really looking at their story through the hero's journey lens and kind of making some distinctions, but also parallels between adventure and starting a business. So check that out. Would love to have you tune in. And if anything resonated from this conversation, you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm easy to find on social media and got links to all that on that tjmurphy.me website. So check it out.
Well, TJ, thanks so much for being a guest and providing such great content and also some good advice about what to look for in marketing and really how to look for people to help tell your story. If you can tell a compelling story, I think you really do kind of have an advantage on people who are not quite sure what direction they're going and what their purpose in life is. So I think that's a great takeaway for me was make
Yeah,
sure you tell that compelling story.
absolutely. Well, hey, I appreciate you having me on the show. This was super fun, Keith. So just keep on doing what you're doing. It's helping people, and that's what life's all about.
Exactly. Thank you so much.